Hello, and welcome to the NPRD podcast with nurse practitioner and registered dietitian Robin Kiewit. Eating disorders, body image, medicine, they are all interconnected. But with so many programs, techniques, and advice to choose from, it's easy to be overwhelmed. Robin, with more than 25 years of experience as a nurse practitioner and registered dietitian, offers help and hope for everyone. Families, children, and adults. Along with veteran talk show host and good friend, Jordan Rich, Robin invites you to learn much more right here on the NPRD podcast.
This podcast is sponsored by Galen Hope, a mental health and eating disorder treatment center. Call 561-556-8208 or visit galenhope.com. That's Galen, galenhope.com. And now, here's Robin.
Hi there. Welcome back to the NPRD podcast. Today we have Ibbits Newhall with us. Welcome, Ibbits. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
This is going to be fun. I'm going to read your bio. After over 25 years in theater, TV, and commercials, doing a variety of very dignified things. This is very funny. Like being chased out of a bathroom by a giant toilet and wisecracking with Rosie of Bounty commercial fame. Ibbits began her career as part of the original outreach team at Timberline Knowles in 2006. She went on to serve as the director of outreach at OPC, Oliver-Pyatt Centers, then became VP of outreach for Oliver-Pyatt, Clementine, and all of the Montanito programs. That is a big job.
It was.
Yeah. From the first, she was a strong advocate for clients and families, recognizing their need for a compassionate and honest guide as they navigated what were, for them, huge decisions about treatment. She quickly became known in the field for assisting families, patients, and professionals by connecting people with much-needed resources. Early on, Ibbits also saw that residential treatment was often just the beginning of a longer recovery arc. As a result, she made it her mission to collaborate closely with program clinicians, outpatient teams, clients, and families to help construct comprehensive aftercare plans for patient step-down options. In 2017, she set out on her own to help families navigate that full arc of eating disorder treatment, often from pre-admission through aftercare. That's such a need. I'm going to finish the rest of your bio, but I'm so excited. She was a founding member and secretary of IADEP New York. That's the International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals. Served on the advisory board of the Center for the Study of Anorexia and Bulimia in New York City, and on the board of the Binge Eating Disorder Association. She's moderated a panel entitled "It's Time to Talk About It: Invisible Women Treating Eating Disorders at Midlife and Beyond" at the IADEP Symposium in 2016, and more recently has joined forces with parent coach Becky Henry and Wendy Wright, LMFT, to create the Recovery Roadmap series, a valuable guide for families. Ibbits now serves on Within Health's advisory board and helps support the team at Galen Hope, which we're very familiar with on this podcast. She and her husband have 2 grown daughters, 2 great sons-in-law, and 2 hilarious little granddaughters. She loves to dance, play tennis, and make people laugh. Thank you for being here.
I'm just tickled pink, as my mother used to say.
So a lot of the time for our listeners, I can tell this story about how I met our guests. I haven't actually met you in person. I'll be meeting you in person next week at an event.
I'm very excited. I've heard about you for so long, Robin.
Yeah, we've done this like crossover back and forth thing. So how are you? And, you're going to be at Meta next week?
I am. It was one of my absolute favorite conference, and maybe in part because when I was first starting out in the field, it was the first conference I ever went to, and I met Beth Mayer, and it was kind of my introduction to the world of professionals, and it was wonderful, and I have enjoyed it in all the years since. Haven't always been able to attend, and it's been a couple of years since I was last there, so I am particularly thrilled. I love the lineup, and it's always such a joy to see the professionals from New England and beyond. It's a great gathering and a lively gathering in the best sense of the word, just in terms of the things that are discussed and talked about, and you hear it in the hallway, and it feels like coming home. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I like how you put that. It does. I'm excited to go to be in person again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went in person last year, but I was injured, so I was kind of hobbling around. But this
Yeah.
year, like really walk
I know.
again.
Oh, that
Yeah, that little,
walking, so
yeah,
helpful.
I know. Um, but it will be fun, and I think Meta over the years has certainly, further reached out, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily just this little New England kind of crowd. It's going to be great. And interestingly, when I've gone back and looked at the guests on this podcast, so many of them are presenting again at Meta, not just for the first time, but again. So that's kind of,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It is, to get back to the term that I use, lively, and I think it is a lively group, and I think Meta has often sought to push the envelope in terms of the kinds of presentations, presenters, and I've seen too the growth in that over the years. You know what Beth and
Mm-hmm.
Stanley started and breathed life into has just grown so much. So
Yeah.
I am very much looking forward to it. I was there 2 years ago, and it was so raw coming back and actually seeing people, and the thrill of seeing people in person, and yet it was still so kind of new and awkward, and can we, and so it's really remarkable 2 years on to be coming back. So.
Yeah, to be in that space. So I
Mhm.
want to tell folks where they can find you first, because
Okay.
sometimes we don't get to this part until the end. And since I have your website up, I want folks to be able to look at it while we're talking. And so your website is your name, which is ibbitsnewhall.com. So IBBITSNEWHALL.com. I'd just love to hear right from you. We read your bio.
Mhm.
Folks know those facts, but tell me more about the passion behind your work.
It's so many things, and I'm going to try not to get teary, but I started in the field quite by accident. My husband was helping pull together the financial backing for what became Timberline Knolls, and I was listening with half an ear. And as I listened, I became intrigued because I had had an eating disorder, and my daughter did as well. She developed it her senior year in high school. And it was absolutely terrifying to know what it was like being in that brain, and yet seeing the lights go out in her eyes and not know how we were going to pull her back.
Mm.
In fact, we got very lucky. We were just lucky, is what I can say, that where we didn't get too far down the road, though I do know that she really cycled in and out of behaviors much longer than either of us were aware. So when Timberline came along and seemed to be uniquely at that time working with adolescent and young adult women, and they had a school, and all I could think of was, oh gosh, I wish something like this that had a school component, because it was so terrifying to think of ripping our daughter out of her life at the time when she was on
Mm-hmm.
the cusp of everything that was to come. And it felt to us like every wheel was spinning off in every single different direction. So I kind of talked them into hiring me. Um, but the passion is also understanding what it feels to be like from the inside looking out, in that brain that has been so altered by the eating disorder behaviors, and then the terror of being a parent and not being able to reach your child and not knowing what to do, how to do it, what to say. And so when I started at Timberline, I was older, and I was able to talk to parents and to individuals as they were contemplating this very big step. And what I discovered, as it was in my bio, is that people needed so much more. They needed so much more hand-holding and understanding about what they were jumping into, what their choices might be, and perhaps most importantly, how to think longer term, how to think beyond that residential care length of stay, because everything that was going to come after it was where the rubber was really going to hit the road.
Mhm.
And that there were so many different building blocks of recovery, small, large, that had to be continued and put into place. And I saw that families over and over and individuals were rushing the process and going, we're good, we're leaving, it's fine. And I saw how individuals were actually relapsing very quickly. And so while I was at Timberline, I said, we have to do things differently here. We have to make sure that they have a plan when they leave, so that the parents and the individual know what comes next, know the work that they have to do. And over the years, it got more and more refined, so that by the time I got to Oliver-Pyatt, and they were pretty good at it, because I was out there in the world and I was meeting lots of different clinicians, and I guess I love connecting people with other people. So I would get involved in that aftercare planning process, because I would know the communities where families were coming from. I knew what the schools were. I kind of knew what it felt like to be a parent, and I knew what it felt like to be the individual themselves. And so I felt like if I could get to families, if I could get to individuals early enough in the process, I could change the paradigm. I could get them to have that paradigm shift to think longer term. Wendy Oliver-Pyatt, my mentor, friend, and boss, had some real, still does, great nuggets. When I was at Oliver-Pyatt, she used to say, go slow to go fast.
I
So
like that.
the time that we take ever so slowly and ever so carefully, that is time that is going to save us time as we go forward, because the impulse is to jump back into one's former life. And usually I use a lot of athletic imagery, excuse me, as I stumble over my words, athletic imagery, let me say that again, for families and individuals, because you almost have to think of it as the recovery from a broken leg or a bad shoulder or, a bum knee, where you can't just have the surgery and bound back on to the field of play. It's going to take some very ginger steps at first, with crutches and holding on to people and slowly learning how to use that limb or muscle again. And we know that to rush it would re-injure it, but we don't always put it in that kind of terms for families and individuals to realize how tender and delicate and fragile these moments are when they're at the end of perhaps that primary level of care. There are so many other domains that they have to think about. What's it going to be like going back to school? What mood disorder or other elements of who they are both wonderful and yet complicating at the same time. I'm sure you've seen this, Robin, with clients where they get out of a higher level of care and the level of their mood disorder or their OCD or the noise from the trauma begins to flare in an extraordinary way.
Much
And
louder.
much louder, and they
Yeah.
feel like they're being pulled back underneath the surface of the wave. And it is disorienting, it is distressing, it is incredibly heartbreaking to both the individual and for those who love them, to see them in so much pain when they've already put all this work in.
Right.
So that in 9,000 words or less, I could go on and I will, because I just can't stop.
We're going to take a moment for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. Galen Hope provides individualized, flexible, and evidence-based eating disorder and mental health treatment. Founded and led by renowned psychiatrist Dr. Wendy Oliver-Pyatt and clinical psychologist Dr. Amy Boyers, the program treats adolescents and adults at their locations in Coral Gables and Delray Beach, Florida. Galen Hope's approach is grounded in high-frequency individual therapy, sophisticated psychiatry, extensive family support, and community integration. The program affirms and accommodates all genders, body shapes and sizes, and neurotypes, as well as being able to provide many of their services for individuals and families in Spanish.
Find out more at galenhope.com.
So many parents know some, but not all. They blame themselves. I think, especially as parents, we're all doing our best at every moment, and no one sends us home with a book from wherever we deliver. Maybe we delivered home. I don't know. I didn't.
Right.
But
there are no books on this one.
Yeah, no. And so take that in stride. When we as professionals can see this road, right? And we want this family, we want this individual to have all the steps and all the information and the right programs. How do we go slow to go fast and not let them get overwhelmed at how long treatment's going to be?
That's a wonderful and lovely question, because it is terrifying. And it's terrifying for families, and it's terrifying for the individual themselves, to think of what it may take. And I guess breaking it down into little doable steps, because it's going to be a step forward and a step back and a step sideways. I do a lot of talking with parents about how to think about this and what it may feel like for their loved one who's on the inside looking out through the eyes and feels like everyone is against them and trying to take this thing that they really know is destroying them, but that they can't let go of. It's so powerful, so seductive, so
makes them feel good. It's coping mechanism.
It doesn't make them feel like they have a superpower. It's their precious, Gollum. It's like protecting it with every particle of their being. And, it's sometimes, we have to leverage those relationships as the clinicians working with the family and individual, and to kind of slowly move the needle, because I think it is difficult to think of trying to convince somebody that these steps are necessary, and that what we're trying to avoid is it taking longer than it has to. I will sometimes say it's like every biological disease. The longer we let it go unchecked or not aggressively treated enough, where we get as much of it as we can, the more pernicious and lethal it can be when it comes back.
Yes.
I'm not sure that always lands in the way that, we would like it to, because I think, I don't know if you're seeing this, but it feels to me that individuals are deeper into this now once they fall into it, for whatever the myriad reasons are that people get pulled in. It seems to me that they are deeper in, or maybe I had more energy. low these years ago.
Well, I think too, and I don't know that there's a best way to say that to
Mhm.
families or individuals. Do we say, sometimes I'm just very matter of fact about it, and
Yeah.
I say, statistically, we know the more quickly we get into recovery and the better treatment we get and the right level of care we get more quickly, the more we're likely to be in recovery and onto a better path, or,
Mhm.
have our whole life back again. I don't think there's a right way to say that.
No.
And it
No.
still sounds and feels daunting and scary. I think that without question, part of the deeper in is probably the last few years, right? And,
Mhm.
as parents,
Yep.
sometimes we don't know how long things are brewing for,
Right.
despite our best intentions in the eyes and back of our head.
Mhm.
Um, you know, so I think that's what I've seen. And for individuals maybe who are about to go to college or later on in high school or even in middle school, they've already dealt with so much
Mhm. Right.
of a complete, turning upside down of their life. And so add on to that another turning point or a trauma or some other event, and their nervous system is just,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That is such a great point. And I think that so much of the eating disorder, as you referenced, is comforting and empowering. Yeah. I feel as though if I can get to the parents early enough, or, sometimes they've been through the ringer already. And what I also try to do is take away the blame and the shame. It would be great if we all had a crystal ball, and in the 2020 hindsight of things, we could all look back and go, oh, right, that's when it started, or that little thing, or that tiny thing that seemed insignificant at the moment, or seemed like a positive, and then all of a sudden blew up into this larger, more difficult, challenging, dark thing. Sometimes we're in it before we realize we are, and we're deeper in it. And as parents and as humans, we can't go back and rewrite history. We can't go back and talk to our other self and say, psst, psst, hey, you, um, you know, look at this, or do this, or do that, just the right thing. As I often will say to parents, the things that I have done right as a parent, I think have been just dumb luck. A total accident. And the things that I thought that I knew and knew how to do, and what I would say to my children, maybe not so much. And so I try and hold on to the things that I got a little right. But we're usually doing things as parents or loved ones of individuals that are going through this. We're trying to do the best we can.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get it right. And sometimes it's a miserable fail.
Well, we're
Uh,
human.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is to go, okay, that didn't work. I have the opportunity to make a shift here. I have an opportunity to do it differently going forward. And that is the best that we can do. And ask forgiveness of ourselves and from those around us.
Yeah, because I think parents are trying their best.
Yeah.
And when certain pieces come up, we might respond in a certain way.
Mhm.
And we might go back and think, oh,
Yeah.
I could have said that differently. And maybe that's a quick thing, but we don't want to go back and blame ourselves, right? Because
I
we
would like a
talk,
rewind button on
yeah,
a number of things.
that'd be so great. And so that brings me to a question. Would you take your own advice? Would you take your own advice knowing what you share with parents? Would you have taken your own advice when you were in your eating disorder as this person that you are now?
I I don't know that I would have taken the advice, just because you have that myopia
Yeah.
of this is a good thing. I'm so disciplined and fabulous. Everybody else is fill in the blank, jealous, blah 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 blah. And it is sometimes these things that happen to us, if we can climb out of them, that are in their way life enriching and life altering. I would not be doing what I'm doing now had this not happened, or had I not been aware, or had we not seen our daughter look like she was just slipping away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought that, I had been so, because of my own experience, so incredibly, open about food and body image. And I think what I was showing her was something quite different. And I also know the power of DNA. I mean, she and I share a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And our eating disorders were nearly identical. It was eerie. So I don't know. I'm stubborn as can be. So I might have given me the advice, but would I have taken it?
Yeah.
A little
And
bit
it's okay to say
contrary.
no.
Yeah, I probably not. I probably wouldn't have taken my own darn advice. Who am
So
I kidding?
So you've been in the field for a while.
Mhm.
Where do you see it going? And where do you see it is where you see it going different than where it's going?
I kind of where would I like it to go? I have a where I would like it to go.
Sure.
I would like it to take some of the amazing things that we're learning about the brain and body, some of the research that's taking place, our understanding of the epigenetics of trauma, what happens in our biology, how do our brains and guts work together, how do we take some of these newer and innovative therapies and bring them to bear more robustly in treatment for these individuals. I think right now a great deal of treatment is not rich enough. It is not diving deep enough, because maybe it's because too, I mean, a lot of the referrals that I get for my consulting work, I get from clinicians. So these are often, they're super interesting, multi-layered, complex individuals, cases, families. And so there is no quick fix, because we have to look at all the different layers and domains and threads of what go on with these individuals, and bring these innovative things that we're learning about to bear, I think. I mean, I do have this relationship with Within Health and Galen, and the big reason that I do is that I believe very deeply in the mission and what they're doing. I believe in the depth and detail of their work, and how they're peeling back the layers and really getting at what's going on, because there are usually so many different layers, a little like an archaeological dig. That is something that I wish and hope for, that we can bring that focus to bear, not just in the offices of people like you and a lot of these other extraordinary people, but bring that into these moments where we have people in an immersive treatment environment, that's our opportunity to really dig in with them.
Yeah. I really appreciate how you said that. I want our listeners to know again how they can find you. Ibbitsnewhall.com, IBBITSNEWHALL.com. I get to see you next week. This has been a pleasure. This conversation just very easily flowed, which is always the hope when we get on here and talk. And so thank you
Well,
for all
thank
the
you.
work that
Thank
you do.
Likewise, as I said, I have heard your name so many times over the years and was so thrilled a number of years back to be able to connect with you and to reconnect. So this is such a pleasure, and I am humbled to be part of this
Thank you.
wonderful lineup and to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the NPRD podcast with Robin Kiewit. We invite you to subscribe, download, rate, and review us, and share this valuable podcast with friends and family. Help and hope is found here. For more, just go to robinkiewit.com. That's ROBYNKIEVIT.com. Or check out TheNPRD.com.